who comes to your mind? Probably the story of Judas Iscariot would come to many minds, many people's minds. And as you know, Judas was one of the 12 closest disciples of Jesus Christ. And yet he betrayed Jesus, and he basically sold his guru to the religious leaders of that time in Jerusalem. He brought soldiers to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was that night, and he got him arrested, and that resulted in the persecution, torture, and crucifixion, even though Judas probably didn't expect that much to happen. But anyway, being in that circle of the closest disciple means Judas was quite an advanced soul, and yet he was not free from delusion. He was not free from a spiritual fall. Swami Kriyananda says the main reason that Judas has fallen was because of his pride. Because of his pride, he gave more importance to the worldly values than spiritual values. And he would see Jesus mixing with the lower class people or the poor or the sick, and Judas would think that, what is he doing? If he wants to spread his teaching, he should go to the main temple and be friends with the high priests over there. That will give him much more influence and power. Or but then Jesus was completely opposite. He didn't even seek, or he didn't even try to be friends with the existing authority. Rather, he condemned them for for forgetting the original teachings or the communion with God. So what came into Judas' mind, we can speculate, is that he would think that, what is my master doing? He must, I have to tell him what to do. I know better. I can handle the situation better. Instead of, raising his consciousness and trying to tune in to what his master is thinking or trying to do, instead, Judas fell into pride, into worldly desires. And the Bhagavad Gita describes that process very vividly. In the second chapter, Sri Krishna says, if one ponders on sense objects, there springs up attraction to them. From attraction grows desire. Desire, impatient for fulfillment, flames to anger. From anger, there arises infatuation, the delusion that one object alone is worth clinging to the exclusion of all others. From infatuation ensues forgetfulness of the higher self. From forgetfulness of the self follows degeneration of the discriminative faculty. And when discrimination is lost, there follows the annihilation of one's spiritual life. So Judas had the desire to help spread his guru's teaching. So originally that was a very good desire. However, he became impatient looking at how his master is doing, and he became even angry. Probably inside himself, what is he doing? He doesn't understand. And then he got infatuated with this idea that I will create a situation where we can get the approval of the religious leaders. And then, as a result, he forgot what, to the attunement to the guru, or he forgot, and then he lost the discrimination and even went to the extent to get his master arrested, and thus annihilation of his spiritual life. It sounds very dramatic, but maybe to a much more milder extent, it happens to all of us quite often in our daily life, isn't it? As you know, the staff team was in seclusion for some time. I was also in seclusion for 10 days. And in the initial days, I noticed that this one thought was keep coming back to me. You could say it was my spiritual wish, but it was still a desire. The desire keep coming back to me. I kept thinking about it. And then, because it's not yet fulfilled, I became a little frustrated, became impatient. Then restless. I was restless. I sat for meditation, but all I could think of was that desire. I've lost that contact to the higher self. Well, I didn't go that. Thankfully, I didn't go to the extent to the annihilation of my spiritual life, but this is how it happens to us very easily, very subtly. And I want to share one suggestion or the advice from Swami Kriyananda that was helpful in this situation. There are many recordings of Swami Kriyananda's talk from the early days of Ananda, like from 1980s. And if you listen to those, often he refers to Greek mythology. Probably, in 80s, his audience was mostly Westerners, and they were familiar more with Greek mythology. Maybe that's why. But then in one of the stories from that Greek mythology that he talks about illustrates this topic very well. And this story is well known, so you might have heard. On the island of Crete, there was a labyrinth. It's a maze, a very complex maze. Once you go in, you cannot come out. Okay? And then inside that labyrinth is a monster called Minotaur. Half man, half beast. Okay? And there comes a hero, or the warrior, prince, Theseus. One day he is going the situation happens that he had to go in and slay that monster. And there's always a princess in the story. So the princess comes and tries to help the warrior. And she gives a spool of thread. What happens is Theseus goes in, unraveling the spool of thread all the way. So inside, he kills the monster, and then he was able to follow that thread back and come out, the first person to come out from that maze. So what Swamiji said was, this is symbolic. The labyrinth, the maze, is our mind under the effect of delusions. Okay? And the Minotaur, the monster, is our lower side of the nature who pull us ourselves into further and further into delusion and darkness. Okay? And you can probably relate to this. Like in your life, in our life, we make decisions, good decisions or reasonable decisions, we think. But then after many, many decisions, where do we find ourselves? Stuck in the delusion. We don't even know how we got there. And then we want to get out, but we don't know how to get out. And then, so the symbolism continues. The warrior who went in and fought, easy to guess, is a devotee. And the princess is a guru. Then what is the thread? The attunement to the guru. If we have that thread in our hand, however deep into the maze of delusion we go, we are able to find a way back. That's the message. So what happened to my seclusion and the desire is that thankfully I found that thread. Well, there are many ways. Chanting is one, looking at Guru's eyes, or listening to his voice, reading his words. But in particular case, this time it was for me japa, just repeating his name. Such a simple thing, but because I kept doing it, and after some time I just forgot why I was doing. And after a few days, I just realized that, I hadn't thought about that desire that was bothering me so much. That's the power of this attunement. Paramhansa Yogananda said, as long as you make the effort, God will never let you down. As long as we hold on, that much effort if we make, He will not let us down. And in fact, Judas, Yoganandaji said, he attained final liberation in the 20th century after that dramatic fall. So God never let us down. So let us remember, whenever we make turns in the word, ask yourself, am I holding that thread tight enough? Am I holding on to the Guru?
And I'll also share a few thoughts on this topic. Why do devotees fall? But more than that, we don't need a reason to fall. We are it's like we fall quite often. It's like it's our birthright. And Judas was one of the persons in the inner circle, not just somebody who came onto the path yesterday and fell down today. He was an apostle. And not just Judas, we have similar stories in in Bhagavad Gita and in various other scriptures, Indian scriptures too, where saints have fallen from high states of samadhi. And Paramhansa Yogananda says we are not safe until we reach Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest possible state in the human body when we are living. And he also shares few stories in the same line. Vedvyasa, who wrote Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, he was an enlightened master. He was liberated. And when his wife was conceived with his baby, he could, through the subconscious of his wife, impart knowledge to the baby in the womb before it was born. That was his power, that was his stature of spiritual advancement. But when the kid was born, Maya took hold of him and he got attached to his kid. The kid was named Shukdeva. And Shukdeva, because he already had all the knowledge in him, he was just waiting probably to get strong enough. At the age of 7, he walked out of the house saying that I want to find my guru. And Vyasa went running behind his kid Sukdeva, saying, Sukdeva, I will teach you. You can do all your sadhana here. Be at home. Why are you going somewhere? Just like our parents did when we wanted to go out. And Sukdeva said, like, stay away from me. You have Maya, just as though he had some infectious disease. So then Vyasa realized that yes, I have cultivated attachment towards my kid. And this is Ved Vyasa, whose scripture is still being read and we still worship him. That's the case for, the situation. And that is the power of Maya. And Paramhansa Yogananda says, doubt not the power of delusion, respect it. And in fact, Paramhansa Yogananda himself, before going to America, he wanted an assurance from God. You remember when he was called to US, to America, and he meditated in the Garpar Road home till he could receive that divine assurance that he will not be lost in modern utilitarianism. And that's when Babaji went to him saying that Heavenly Father sends me here to assure you that you won't be lost in the cold airs of West. And he even describes that he says that I did not have a little trepidation. He was really worried. And we are talking about Paramhansa Yogananda, an avatar who was being freed many lifetimes ago. He respected Maya, and we too, in their following their line, following their examples, should be very conscious and cautious when we tread on the spiritual path. And Swami Kriyananda shares a super conscious dream his brother disciple had once in Mount Washington when he was living there. And this brother disciple had a dream. All the monks, they were on a race course running towards the destination. And as they were running, everybody fell. Some just lay there for a while. Some of them got up slowly. They started walking and then they started running. And Swami Kriyananda asked his brother disciple, was I there? Like, of course you were there. Did you fall? Of course you fell, but you got up quickly and you started running towards the goal immediately. So we will fall. It's a part of the learning process, just like a kid learning to walk. But with what attitude we approach this fall, we receive this fall is very, very important. So I'll read this chapter, the guidance given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He says, the spiritual seeker finds himself swept off his upward course by outward temptations, not only sensory pleasures, but a desire for less tangible temptations offered to the individual by Maya to feed his ego consciousness, name, fame, power, self-importance, and a host of other ego-boosting delusions. Instead of agitating himself with guilt feelings and self-accusation, which will only increase his susceptibility to delusion, he should return calmly to his pre-established course. And Krishna says, don't blame yourself. Just accept the fall and develop that inner power within you to stop and introspect and ask what went wrong. Instead of focusing on failure and telling, oh, I failed, and don't make your failure into an affirmation. Look towards the positive side and re-establish yourself in the right course. And Swami Kriyananda shares another story about his sister disciple Tara Mata. Tara Mata was, when Paramahansa Yogananda was in his body, Tara Mata found a worldly ambition and left Mount Washington, the ashram, to pursue that worldly ambition. And of course, sooner she realized, the moment she realized that this is not giving me happiness, she came back to Guru, and Guru gracefully accepted her back. And one of the sister monks said that, how did, with what face did you come back here? Basically, she asked in Hindi, kiss muh leke aaya yahan, it's kind of a situation. But Tara Mata just firmly looked at her sister disciple and said, do you want me to worship my mistakes? Do you want me to stay there in the pool of mud I fell into? Or do you want me to get up and clean myself and walk ahead? And the sister disciple then realized her mistake. So God and Gurus, they are always guiding us, lending us a helping hand. And always remember, as Paramhansa Yogananda says, the season of failure is the right time to sow the seeds of success. So that's the very time when we fall off, or when we are not feeling joy, peace, calmness, or harmony. That's the very time we need to meditate more, we need to attune ourselves more, and we need to ask guidance from gurus. Just like the chants we chanted today, make them the pole star of your life. No matter how dark the life is, their mercy will guide us towards the right direction. And how to hold on to that attunement? Of course, you already know the answer, which is sadhana, seva, and satsang. So, sadhana is give your personal best every day, choose your favorite technique, and go deep in that. And I'm sure that one day's sadhana might not be as deep as the previous, or your deepest sadhana. It might not be the best, but see to that you give your personal best to Guru. God and Gurus, they never mind our faults, they never judge us. Their love is unconditional, but they do mind our indifference. They do mind if we continue to do what we are doing, or continue to not make an effort in the right direction. And satsang, like meditating together, gives you that opportunity to tune into a vibration which is much stronger when you are meditating alone at your home. Satsang and meditation together, which Paramahansa Yogananda says, it forms a fortress of energy around us. And there's a Tamil saying that a lifeless thread which holds the flowers together to make a garland will smell as good as the flower, just by the association of it with the flower. So even if few people are meditating deeply and our meditation isn't that strong, we will be benefited by that person who's meditating next to us, who's very deep. And when we come together, we join our energies to tune into Master's vibration, to God's vibration, and we are more receptive when we are in an environment which supports meditation. And seva is also a very important role in attunement with Guru. Paramahansa Yogananda says, if you want to be in tune with me, serve my work. And this is not transactional as one might think. Serving Guru is, we are teaming up with Guru. This is not a mission which is, which started yesterday. When Lahari Mahashaya got initiated into Kriya Yoga by Mahavatar Babaji, and Mahavatar Babaji said, give Kriya to all those who humbly seek for help. The mission started there, and it's happening even here at Ananda Sangha. And Ananda Sangha is just an expression by Paramahansa Yogananda through Swami Kriyananda of that blessing which was received. And when we serve, when we add our energy, our time, our to this mission, we team up with our gurus. We are on the same team. And Swami Kriyananda always said that, it's not about what you do, but how you do it. So, by serving, when you serve, always hold on to the consciousness that you are just an instrument and God and Gurus are serving through you, and that consciousness will help you hold on to that thread which Chika was mentioning. And with that thread, we can follow our way out of the darkness. The way out through the to the light is by holding on to the thread. And Paramhansa Yogananda says, a failed yogi, despite the deep and unavoidable disappointment he feels with himself when he fell, is much greater as a human being than the most successful materialist. To say it, let me reread it. A failed yogi is much greater as a human being than the most successful materialist. So long as you continue to make the effort, Yogananda said, God will never let you down. And always remember, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. So don't give up, and we will be saints one day. And God and Gurus have given us the path towards how to become a saint. They have given us techniques, they have given us a spiritual family, and it is up to us to make the best use of it. Sometimes we might ask ourselves, why does God or Guru let us fall? Why can't my mom ask that question when sometimes things don't happen the way she wants to happen in the family? She will say, why did God let this happen? And that's a rightful question to God, and she will ask that question. But Paramahansa Yogananda says that sometimes God lets us suffer, Guru lets us suffer, if they know that this suffering will help us to overcome our limitation. If the suffering will free us from our past karmas or the fetters which are holding back. So they will just let it happen, so that when we come out of the suffering, we come more clean. In villages, how do they do? I mean, here we use washing machine, but then your villages, when you do laundry, we take up the clothes and beat them up a rock. That's the only way to remove stains. And the tougher the stains, tougher the beating it is. So sometimes we get beaten up just to make ourselves clear, pure and neat, so that our soul's quality shines forth through, and there is no dirt obstructing that. So sometimes suffering is fine, but even in that suffering, if we tune in to Guru's mercy, they will show us the way out. So again, remember, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. Thank you.